Giant will have a more of a discussion, but what a bad day. Um, it, and I've been talking about this when I start the videos. How when I wrote the Project 2025 essay in August, over a year before the elections, I warned everybody that the plan was to overwhelm our political and legal system and dismantle anything they thought was a threat to their power. I knew this was coming. There's no doubt about that. But I woke up today. My back was killing me, so I kind of piled up the pillows on the couch and I kind of laid half sitting up and finally fell asleep last night. And I woke up middle of the morning this morning, and my phone was sitting on the ottoman. So I looked at the phone. It was my son who had just sent me a message over encrypted text. He asked me, "Did you see this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, I didn't know what's going on." And I needed a few minutes to wake up and get my head in a space because I just didn't want to turn the video. Because I kind of suspected it was going to be beyond the pale horrible. I really expected that to happen. When I looked at it, I just knew I felt it in my gut that this was going to be even worse than the things we saw in the past. So I watched the video, and even on the first video, um, I just see the ICE agents being the total aggressors for no legitimate reason other than they're untrained and they're panicked and they're mad. They're told to be mad and angry. They've been told a complete fantasy that they're saving America. They're not. They're damaging America at a level and a pace that I didn't think that was possible. So I watched the first video and I'm like, okay, this is not good. So I start fishing around on Substack and Blue Sky, and I see the still pictures from one of the video frame from one of the videos, and the guy is just standing there with his camera. He's not aggressively going after any of these ace agents. He's literally standing over the camera, right like this, their arm down, and he is literally taking a video. And the ICE officer is in his face screaming. So I watch another video. Oh, why did he move from that position? Oh, because ICE had just knocked over a woman, and he went to help her up and pull her back onto the sidewalk. That was seen as a criminal attack by the ICE agents, and they swarmed him. Now, one thing I've noticed, they do not know how to deploy tear gas, OC spray, pepper spray, whatever you call it these days, CSCN, whatever chemicals you're using. Um, even a handheld canister is not meant to be deployed at point blank range. When we train people with the bear spray, the strongest of the OC sprays, which really do a number on people, by the way, when they're really combative, they stop being combative really quick after they get the bear spray. Um, we were told time and time and time again, you don't need to walk up and squirt it in their face. You just need to stand back and just let them have a whiff. That's all. Just takes a couple of drops in the mucous membranes, the mouth, the tear ducts, and they're going to be in so much pain. Um, they will be instantaneously less combative. I've never seen somebody fight through a full good shot of pepper spray in the face. But also, I've never walked up and gone 6 inches or closer to their face and just not just the handhelds. They're doing the big canister tear gas dispensers, and they're walking up something that's supposed to be sprayed at just over head height so the material falls down on the crowd. They're supposed to be spraying it like 10, 15 meters back, and it's supposed to be a crowd dispersal tool. They're walking up and sticking the canister in somebody's face directly in their eyes in a couple of videos and pulling the trigger. That's not how you use this equipment. That's not how you use the tool. In fact, that's against training, both Army and civilian police. That's against the training, and it's against the manufacturer's spec. Okay. So he's standing there, the nurse, the guy that they just murdered, and he's pulling the woman back on the sidewalk. They saw that as a big giant threat to their authority, not to their safety. It's all about their authority. So they swarm him. They spray him with a canister directly in the face, outside the specs of training, outside the specs of the manufacturer. And then when they get him down, the guy takes the tear gas canister and starts repeatedly hitting him in the face with the tear gas canister. Okay, I can tell you for absolute certainty, it is a department or an agency violation to use a tear gas canister as an impact weapon to the face. You're not even supposed to be using it as an impact weapon. Never mind the head and face. That's seriously, seriously, it's not overkill. It's so fucked up. I don't know what to do with it. Okay. So I go through and I watch 3 of the videos, and all I'm seeing is misconduct and abuse by the ICE agents. Okay. Then I see the last video, the 4th video, and I see the agent take the gun from the protester, the nurse they killed, and run away with it. Then they shoot him 9 times. You disarmed a man, then you shot him? You do that in the Army, you're going to Leavenworth. You're going to military prison. And not for a short stint. You're going for a long fucking time. You know, if they're not armed and they're not posing an otherwise lethal threat, you cannot deploy deadly force. Now, a lot of people saying the first shot was a accidental discharge. Could be, maybe. I'm more worried about the panic fire. Because if it was an accidental discharge and he was responding to his own gun going off, and that's what made him just empty the gun or nearly empty the gun. I don't know how many rounds they carry in the. I don't even know what I think they carry 6 Sauers, but I don't know what model. I carry the old P226 Sig Sauer, the Navy SEAL model. We bought them from Virginia from the Sig Sauer factory for our apartment. The the luminous sights and the whole thing and the Parkerized because we work by the ocean, so you got to Parkerize the guns or they all rust. You either have to use really strong stainless steel like a Walther PPK's 440 stainless, or uh you got to Parkerize the gun. Otherwise, it will just rust and rot. Okay, so I was pretty good. My wife is really good with a T26. She really liked that one. Um, so I don't know what they carry. Probably like a 320 now. I guess that's it. I mean, I'm a gun owner, but I don't like, study guns or, buy new guns all the time or anything. I haven't bought a gun in years and I have plenty of guns already, so I'm not worried about that. Thank you for everybody for joining. Jag just commented, help isn't coming, not from above, not from institutions that have been captured and corrupted or rendered useless. Democrats are too soft, spineless, and just scared of Trump to respond in any meaningful way. Sir, I generally agree with that. Yeah, yeah. This is why I've been saying for months now. We need to re-register as independents. The two-party system has absolutely failed America. It's not only financially failed us, quality of life, cost of living, bank bailouts, junk bond kings, all that shit over the years. They have this. The government has no interest in this dynamic, in this left-right orthodoxy um, between Democrats and Republicans. There's no workable solution for anybody who isn't one of their campaign donors. I mean, the way the system works, and it has worked for many years like this, is, let's say if you take the time to actually write a hard letter, a paper letter, send it postal mail, and send it to um, your representative or your senator. Okay. If you did not give them a large campaign donation check, or you're not a lobbyist, a junior staffer will take note on the subject, date, and time they received that letter. They may skim the first couple of sentences. Then they simply throw it into the recycling bin. Now, if a lobbyist walks into their office, they literally stop what they're doing and tend to the needs, and a senior staffer comes out with pen and paper and starts taking copious notes about exactly what they want. Are Democrats soft? Yeah, they're surrender monkeys. I wrote a whole essay calling them out as surrender monkeys. Bristol says the establishment leaders of both parties that are corporate donor slaves. Yes, also true. Also very true. Yes. If it is a banking lobbyist, they really care about what that lobbyist have to say. You or I call. Now, I'm not saying this is actually every single representative, but it's 95% of them, sure. They don't care about your opinion. You do not pay them enough for them to be concerned, because their real job in Congress is not passing laws. It's fundraising for the party. It's taking notes from lobbyists. It's not about serving their constituents. They give us a hand job every election cycle, and as soon as they get reelected, they're back to paying attention to the lobbyist. They don't care about us. So we have this situation in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. It's getting worse. Fights are breaking out in the street now. Stephen Miller, according to Les Parnas and several other posts I just saw in the last hour, Stephen Miller called an emergency meeting in the White House, and he is advocating directly to Dear Leader Porn Star Humper that they enact not only the Insurrection Act, but martial law immediately. Because ICE agents gunned down an unarmed man who they just stripped of his legally concealed weapon. Now, this is something that's throwing me into just like a what the fuck tizzy today. You just spent the last 35 years promoting gun rights as the solution to everything. Every Tom, Dick, and swinging Harry had to go out and start carrying open carry or CCWs. Okay. They even have states now that you need no permit process, no insurance, no nothing, and you can carry an assault weapon in the street. But now, if you're in the presence of ICE officers, they can murder you if they think you're a threat with a gun. You don't have any rights to a gun if an ICE agent is present. And the video is very clear. The gun, the custom Sig Sauer they took off the guy out of his holster, it's plain as day in the hands of the agent, and he runs away with it. And it's several seconds later They dump ammunition into him on the ground. And of course, they have a pre-planned response to the murder. They knew they were going to do this. Let me make this absolutely clear. After Renee Good, they doubled down. But then they got egg on their face when the magistrates wouldn't sign the warrants for the church incursion. Then they got really mad at Minneapolis residents when 50,000 plus people occupied downtown in a protest. So their answer was go in there and start kicking the shit out of people and look for an excuse to shoot the next white American. Remember, this was about the dirty brown people, the immigrants bringing all the crime? Read Stephen Miller's post. Watch Kristi Noem's press conference. Look at the right-wing podcasters. Okay? This is now about Americans. They don't even give a shit about immigrants today. They want to know who they get to shoot next. Why? Because only MAGA has Second Amendment rights now. You see how quickly that turned? The beginning of this term, back in late January, early February, we have to take all the guns away from the trans people because they're mentally ill. We went from that to nobody has gun rights unless they're wearing a red hat and they like to drool onto their shirt. "35 years of we have an absolute unfettered right to carry guns. But if you have a gun in the presence and you attack the guy, because that's what happened. The guy was standing there with his camera. He's got his arm around a woman. He's getting her back on the snowbank. I'm not narrating. I'm writing the police report based on an observation here. He had his arm around the woman and he was trying to get back up onto the sidewalk. They showed up and immediately ran up with that crowd canister, stuck it directly in his face, and then started punching, kicking, and then everybody jumped him. And then the guy with the tear gas canister starts wailing him in the face with a tear gas canister. How the fuck is that appropriate arrest procedure? My provost marshal in Germany? Oh, shit. Lieutenant Colonel Price? Oh, my God. I got his face in my head now. He's one of the most stoic men I ever met. But I can tell you what, when he gets done with you after catching you doing something this stupid, one, you're going to lose your security clearance. Two, you're going to lose your MOS as an MP. Three, you're going to the stockade. You're not getting house arrest and extra duty. You're going to the fucking stockade in Mannheim. It's like county jail. Now, I guarantee you, in any of my police work back in the day, they got a hold of a video. I don't care who. The captains, the chief, the city attorney, the city manager, the DA, the state prosecutor, whoever. They see the video of you running away with the gun you say that was a threat to you, and you literally removed it from the person you say was a threat, and then you shot him anyways, you're done. You're done as a cop. There's no way anybody signs off on that. Zero chance of that. Zero. The response is insane. I watched one right winger on a podcast. I saw a clip on YouTube Shorts about an hour ago. Guy screaming into the microphone, "God damn it, this is why I voted for Trump. He's my hero. I want my country back." You want your country back from white people? And this is what I warned you about. This is just replaying the old Klan shit. Yes, the Klan hates black people. We all know that. But when they moved up to the Midwest in the 1920s, guess who they also hated? The Irish. Also the Italians, the Greeks, and the Turks. But they really hated the Irish. We were subhumans, just like the blacks. And they became a political party in the upper Midwest in the early 1920s. It didn't last long. It only lasted a couple of years before people went, oh, these are the white knights of Mississippi. Yeah, they are, you dumb crackers. So we had Second Amendment rights that were undisputable. Remember, they took a case to the Supreme Court. I wrote an essay about this. They took a case of a repeat violent felon with multiple arrests and several convictions underneath his belt. When he was beating his girlfriend, live-in girlfriend, felony spousal abuse, and the people started calling 911 and witnesses started yelling, hey, stop. He whipped out a pistol and started shooting at the reporting party and the witnesses. So the far right wing took the case all the way to the Supreme Court because they took the suspect's gun away, and that was a violation of his gun rights. And they took it all the way to the Supreme Court. And not even Coney Barrett could fucking swallow that big, giant fucking legal turd. She was like, this guy's not exactly the greatest candidate to argue this case, don't you think? And I'm like, why the fuck did you accept this case in the first place? It's bullshit. The guy's on his fourth felony. He shot at the person calling 911 because he was committing a felony, and he committed another felony to try to cover up the first felony. And you think taking away, seizing his guns was a violation of his rights? That's what they thought just last year. Today, do you have a gun in the presence of a federal agent? You're dead. We get to kill you. You're not wearing a red hat. You don't have drool marks on your t-shirt. You can't carry a gun. And this whole horse shit by the fucking freak gun fetishists on the far right. Only we have guns. Oh, bullshit. I have a ton of liberal friends. They're armed to the fucking teeth. Like, I laugh. One of my friends, I've known him for years. We used to play on the same ice hockey team years ago. We still hang out. I go to his birthday parties. You know, we're good friends, right? I just talked to him for an hour today on the phone. Some of the gear that dude's got. He is a capital L Bay Area liberal. That guy's got more nuttier guns than I do. Okay, so this whole thing that you own the space of gun ownership. No, what you own is gun fetishes. You have a gun fetishism problem. You are a gun fetishist. Okay, how can I tell the difference between a gun owner and a gun fetishist? A gun fetishist doesn't realize a firearm is just a tool. That's all it is. You're not going to change the world. You know, the Prince Ferdinand psychosis. Oh, if I just shoot one person, it will change the world. Well, they shot Ferdinand and it started 2 world wars. How'd that go? All it is a tool to solve an immediate problem that hopefully does not come up that often. And even with the jobs I did in the military and in civilian life, I only had to use force like that only a couple of times. Out of literally like 3 or 3,500 arrests over my career. Like, I only had to use a baton like maybe 5 or 6 times in 14 years. Because I knew how to talk to people, or I just had enough command presence and could talk to people where I just, you don't want to do that with me. That would be a major mistake to play with me. Unfortunately, a couple of people wouldn't listen, so they got whacked. But I was good enough with Aikido and jujitsu and unarmed tactics that I usually bare hands was enough. But this is what I'm seeing with the ICE agents. I'm watching them like I'm going through these videos and I'm looking at them like I was a certified instructor for impact weapons when I was a peace officer, and when you watch things in an after action report, whether it's an officer involved shooting, whether it's trying to restrain somebody in the cell in the custodial environment, or it's a fight out on the street where you've got to use force. Um, there's good procedure and practice, and then there's totally fucking it up. There's no real in between in most cases. And I've seen use of force after use of force after use of force that simply doesn't follow the training, the procedures. If it's with equipment, it doesn't follow the manufacturer's specification. Like, trust me, when we were finally given our 10% bear spray, our OC spray, we were literally given the product manual and required to sit there in the briefing room and read it. Then we had to discuss it to make sure we understood what the fucking manual said. Then we have to get sprayed in the face. And trust me, I was hit with CN in the army. That's the most painful stuff I've ever experienced. The inside of your ears feel like somebody put a Bic lighter in your ear. Like, I saw people pass out. I saw people vomit uncontrollably. Like, medics had to help them. They couldn't stop vomiting. That's how bad CN is. CN is horrible. It hurts so bad. Um, but OC is pretty damn close. It hurts. Like, I'm not going to dose somebody with the pepper spray, the bear spray, unless they're really combative. Just not going to do it because it does cause an incredible amount of pain. Like, we had to hit a guy pretty bad. He was blitzed out, drunk off his mind, and he just started attacking anybody who was. He didn't care if it was the waitress, the person sitting next to him at the bar stool. He just started attacking everybody. And we're like, dude, calm down. I know you're drunk, but holy shit, stop! And finally, he came after my partner, and I kind of cross-checked him and threw him to the little dance floor in front of the stage in the bar. I'm like, dude, stop, calm down, calm down. He gets up, kicking and swinging, and we're like, nope. Spray. He went down like a bag of potatoes on the ground screaming. And we took him to the station and he goes, oh my God, you got to get me to a doctor. And I go, the doctor can't help you, dude. Okay. What can help you is a garden hose. Come here. I'll help you. So we took him out by the jail door and we got the garden hose that we used to wash the car. And I just started to gently flush his face. And then about 5 minutes, he calmed down. And he goes, I can't believe how much that hurt. I go, yeah, I didn't want to do it. I asked you like 4 times to calm down and stop hitting people. So you just don't do it willy nilly. Is my point, because it is a quite a an extremely painful pain compliance technique. It's far more painful than like a good wrist lock, like a come along or a good Kodakaishi wrist lock or something like that. It's much more painful than that. Even though I personally had worse, I was always careful with the OC spray. You just don't want to lay into somebody with that stuff. It's bad. But when I see ice, I'm like, you guys have no idea what you're doing. You don't know how to do an arrest procedure. You don't know how to do an arrest procedure in a crowd. You don't know how to put your physical hands on somebody in a protest environment. You want to remove them from the line, okay? And you want to quickly get them into the zip cuffs, and you want them on their feet and walking away from the crowd, and you want that done in like 20 seconds. Because if it takes too long, then the crowd's going to hit you again. Okay. Remember the war protesters at the fort. I remember, the anti-abortion protesters versus the pro-abortion folks, battling out in the street. I remember all the protests I used to do. There's certain ways you deal with the situation, and there's many ways you do not. Bristol asked, do you think the Minneapolis police will ever protect or defend the community protesters against ICE incompetence? To be honest, I already said this in notes. Right now, everybody in Minnesota who's not at least showing command presence around ICE, and I'm talking the city police chief, the county sheriff, the state police commander, the attorney general, and the governor, you're all fucking cowards. If you didn't hear me the first time, I'll repeat it. You're fucking cowards. You're standing in the hallway at Uvalde. Cowards. Okay? Because those high schools are not going to do what they're doing if there's 300 or 400 city police and deputy sheriffs and state troopers standing there watching them. Oh, and just to clarify, do local police have the authority to arrest a federal agent if they commit a crime in their presence? Absolutely, yes, we do. Absolutely, yes. Being a federal agent or being a law enforcement officer of any capacity at any level of government does not give you the ability to commit a crime. That's not a thing. Now, I will give credit to the Minneapolis, keep saying, switching the state and the city name. Minneapolis, Minnesota. That's long. The Minneapolis chief, I will give him credit. He told his officers to stand up and protect the crime scene. Um, so at least there's that. But if I was the police chief or I was the county sheriff, we'd already be on tactical alert. I'd have already called for mutual aid. And I'd have told my people in my command, if you don't have the guts to do this, go home. Put your badge and the gun on the desk and go home. Because we're confronting them. They're not going to be shooting civilians, unarmed civilians, or disarmed civilians, and then they're going to execute them, then scream, Second Amendment rights for everybody except you. No, that ain't happening. That is not fucking happening. Now, I'll give you an example how a federal agent can be arrested. A few years ago in New York City, the whole internal bullshit at the FBI. No agency is perfect. I've never said that, never claimed that, never want to insinuate that. Um, but like the right hates the FBI more now than shit the Black Panthers or the hippies. Okay. But the FBI is a good agency. It's got its problems. Okay. It's a huge agency. A lot of people, shit happens. Okay. It should be better in some cases, absolutely. But in general, it's a good force. I never had a problem with FBI agent, and I've worked with FBI in several occasions: bank robberies, kidnapping, and anti-terrorism. Okay, all the FBI agents I worked with were professionals, were honest, were good agents. Had zero problems. In fact, I was happy when the FBI showed up at a bank robbery because they're the experts. I also like when the EOD shows up from the Navy base because one of our bank robbers left a bomb behind in the robbery. So it's like telling the FBI, you want to park your car about a half block back? Why? There's a bomb in the bank. Oh, um, he got federally charged for the bomb too, not just the bank robbery. But this is absurd what they're doing. Like, I haven't seen an appropriate arrest other than there seemed to be, I don't know if he was Latino or a light skinned black male agent, and he was actually trying to use some IPC at a traffic stop, and somebody was the passenger was recording it at on their cell phone. He was wearing a mask or anything, so I couldn't really see like the facial dynamics to do my interrogation interview evaluation on his face. But to me, he sounded like he had experience, possibly like he was in the Marines or the Army, and he was actually trying to talk to these people, not coerce or bully them. Okay, because that's where you always start. Even with hardcore gang members, it's all about rapport. And I think this is the problem with this generation of cops in general, and definitely with these ICE twats. They have no rapport. I could see the gang leaders from either side, um, or see one of the leaders of one of the biker gangs, like I got called up to Veterans Hall one night because they had a live band, and of course, the old lady that lives next to the Veteran Hall, after 11 o'clock, she calls the cops every time, not just when the bikers are there, but anytime there's a party there. And so, I knew it was a biker gathering. I'm not going to go in there and start shit, okay? Because I really don't feel like doing that much paperwork tonight. So I just knocked on the door, and the guy's asking, as the doorman, the bouncer, he's like, "What's up?" And I go, "The music, dude. It's 11:30." And he's like, "Okay, just 1 minute." I go, "Okay, fine. Send so and so out." He's the VP of the club. So he comes out, he lights a cigarette, offers me one. I go, "No, man, I quit just a little while back." We had a nice little conversation. He stuck his head back in. "Hey guys, turn the music way down. Okay. We don't want to upset the lady next door." Okay. I didn't burst in and start fucking batoning, you know, guys wearing colors to look for a fight. I just said, "Hey guys, it's a noise complaint." Because this is all it is. It's a noise complaint. I know who's in the bar. I know who rented the hall tonight. I'm not an idiot. But I also don't want to start a riot. And I really don't want to have to explain to my captain why we had to call 60 cops to our town to contain a riot with bikers at the Veterans Hall. Okay. So I was like, "Dude, can you just turn on the music?" "Okay. Yeah, sorry, man." "Oh, okay. We had a nice little conversation about this, that, and the other thing, moved on." I could see the Latino kid, one of the leaders of the Latino gangs. And I was rolling by, so I parked on the other side of the street and crossed the crosswalk. I go, "Hey, dude, can we talk?" He's like, "Yeah, sure, man. What's up?" And we knew each other when I was in the army because I was doing police work on the fort and around the fort on the teams. So we kind of knew each other even before I got to the city. Um, and we have rapport. And I'm like, "Dude, I heard you got shot." And he goes, "Yeah." He uses a derogatory N word, the lit word, LIT. "Shot me in the neck." I go, "No way." He's going, "Yeah, the bullet's right here." I'm going, "Can I touch it?" He's like, "Yeah, man, it's right there. I tell you." I'm like, "Yeah, there's a 25 caliber bullet in his neck." And I'm like, "God damn, are you okay?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah. It's sore once in a while because I think it's pinching a nerve, but the doctor won't touch it. It's too close to things in my neck, so it's just going to stay in there and just encapsulate when it heals." And I'm like, "Wow, that's weird." So we had a whole stop and talk. I'd even pull out the FI cards. I knew everything about the two guys I was talking to. And I had to stop and talk. We talked for about 10 minutes. They were going up to the Chinese restaurant because, like, our city downtown was kind of like a home plate safe zone. So was the fairgrounds, because they like to go there. Like, they liked having lunch. They liked going to the fair, so they didn't start shit there. So they usually were cool in those scenarios. But he goes, "Yeah, we're going to get lunch at the Chinese place." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's cool. We eat there too." But it paid off later on. Because later on, I was like, "Dude, do we know who did what the other night?" And he goes, "It wasn't us." I'm going, "You serious?" He goes, "I'm completely serious. Don't waste your time. It was not us." He goes, "It was the other one." ICE has none of that. They can't talk to anybody. And they're not trained to talk to anybody. They're just trained to go in there and be, the literal goon squad. And you don't get much done with that. Now, I'm not saying there's sometimes you don't send the goon squad. I almost considered applying for Las Vegas PD just so I could spend a couple of years on patrol, then get on their felony arrest team. Because Las Vegas is always known for, if you're wanted in another state, there's a good chance you're going to be arrested in Las Vegas. And, if you're a felon with multiple warrants out, for several new felonies, yeah, I have no problem spending my time, finding you and getting you out so you don't hurt residents or disturb businesses in the city. And that's all law enforcement is. It's keeping the peace. It's making sure that you can live your lives in your home reasonably. Businesses can operate reasonably. Okay. If you need help, somebody will come and help you. It's not this shit. But yeah, sometimes we have to send the special team from the US Marshals to go grab a guy because, yeah, he's a really violent asshole. Okay. Those are rare. Those are really rare. That's not everyday shit. Okay. And the fact, like, they're kicking in the door of this Hmong grandfather, They take him out in the freezing cold and he's in his underwear with a blanket and his chest is exposed, his legs are exposed. It's 10 fucking degrees outside. You're doing this to an elderly man? What is wrong with you? Oh, I know what's wrong with you. You're all fucking idiots. That's what. Oh, and the real problem, the guy they were looking for was already in prison. This is how clueless they are in their operations. They don't know A from B to C. They're definitely not doing the search warrant prep correctly. And the fact they're going to enforce, now remember, most immigration issues are civil. When you falsify documents, you come in repeatedly, then it becomes a misdemeanor. If there's some violence or some other hairy shit involved, it could become a felon. They're treating everybody like they're goddamn Bin Laden. And remember, most of this shit, they don't even have, I mean, literally 63% of the people they've arrested, according to that post I put up on notes, have no criminal convictions whatsoever. And they're showing up 10 strong with whatever they're carrying, M16s, M4s, whatever the fuck they're carrying, AM10s. Okay, they're carrying carbines. Okay, and lots and lots and lots and lots of them. To enforce a civil matter that most likely, if it was go criminal, it'd be a misdemeanor. In some occasions, it would be a felony. So to enforce the mostly civil, sometimes misdemeanor, well, every once in a while felony thing, you're showing up like an infantry platoon in Afghanistan. Is this proper law enforcement? No, it is not. You know, like when the toll tank thing started up here locally. No, and I had to correct a few cops locally because they started really getting on my case. They really didn't like that I was against the tank. I said, one, you can upgrade this SUV, so shut the fuck up. It's exactly what we did in West Germany. We ran around in civilian sedans that were armored up. Okay. Second of all, if you give me an M14 KS and you have 6 of them in your arms room, nobody outguns me. Battlefield assault rifle and you're outgunned. Fuck you. And we had just reformed what was going on locally. Getting them to stop pulling out the fucking tank. We got several cities to sell their tanks and get rid of them. One chief called the tank a distraction to law enforcement. And I was like, no shit, that only took you 9 years. I told you that straight up day one. Now we're doing this all over again with federal agents that are untrained, unseasoned, unsupervised, inept, incompetent, unethical, unprofessional. You know, I'll tell you a case. This wasn't mine. This was my good buddy. We went to the academy together. I was off for a couple of months because I hurt my knee, and he had to respond to a racial fight. It was actually based on racial animus. This was hate crime stuff. You know, not cool, right? So my buddy Jay, he finds the victim. He's a young black kid, and the kid completely refuses to cooperate. And my buddy's Mexican. He's not a white guy. So it's not like a white cop coming up and asking. Chelsea's like the coolest guy. He's like, oh man, no, don't worry about it. No way. Tell me what happened. Tell me what happened. And he's like, no, I don't want to cooperate. He goes, can I at least get your ID so I know who you are? And he begrudgingly gave his ID, but he just wouldn't cooperate after that. So the next morning, his uncle, the victim's uncle, takes him to the NAACP office locally. And the NAACP leaders sit down and talk to him and says, no, you got to go back to the police department. You got to cooperate. You got to file a report. So the next morning, with one of the leaders of the NAACP, he shows up at the front desk. He goes, oh yeah, we want to make a police report now. Now, Jay was smart enough to file an initial report just saying, hey, here's the guy, here's what witnesses said, the suspects fled, here's their descriptions, and then the victim wouldn't cooperate. Okay. The kid's at the desk next afternoon. I want to give a full statement. Okay, cool. Let's take it right from here. Well, the newspaper and the news station caught wind of the fact that this was an actual racial animus fight. So it made news quickly. And the NAACP leaders locally called a press conference and was well attended by all the local news agencies. And they were going like, yeah, this was an actual racial incident. This is uncalled for. This is not proper, boom, 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 down the line. And so one of the reporters go, well, what about this city police department? Do you have a problem with them? And the leaders look at each other, kind of confused, and goes, with them? The cops there? No, we have no problem with them. And we're like, yay! Now, LULAC hated us for some reason, but yeah, we had no problem with the NAACP. We had a very good relation with them. Okay. Yeah, we eventually, got him to make a full statement, give a full description, look at some booking photos of some potential suspects. We identified one, rolled him on the others, found everybody who did it, ended up in court, the whole thing. We did it. Okay. Um, but even when you run into a difficulty, like a victim doesn't want to cooperate for some pretty, ugly reasons, um, your way around that is doing your job right, using your communication skills, using rapport at every level you can to do the best you can, given the circumstance. None of that is present with the ice ages. None. No. These guys would show up to a jumper and tell them to jump. That wasn't a joke. I really do think that they would. They're showing no morals. They're showing no restraint. They're showing no acumen. I'm sorry. You used a 5-year-old as bait in a arrest warrant where you did not. It wasn't clear whether or not you had an actual search warrant, and you grabbed a kid as a hostage and used them as bait. Now, if they say what they're doing is true, why don't they release the real information? Not have the dementia patient in chief stand at the lectern with stroke face, and the rotting skin on the back of his head. He looks like a walking corpse now, dear leader. Oh my God, he looks horrible. And he just randomly picks up a book. Well, this person, I think he did that. No, give us the actual facts on why you arrested these people. Actually build a public repository where not just the lawyers in the newspapers, but the public at large can go there and look exactly what you're doing and who you're arresting for what. And then had another column for the adjudications. Time in custody. Because this is another thing I warned everybody about. Is this really about deportation? Or is this about campaign donors in the private prison space, in the security industrial space, to make a shit ton of money? Because they'll throw any money at this. They'll take away your health care. They'll take away Social Security. They'll take away education. They'll take away pediatric cancer research. They're going to take away vaccines. Even polio now. They're pro polio. How the fuck are you pro polio? Now, the subject of the title of this live session, I said, America No More, Moog or Yugo. Because I think right now, unfortunately, we're going to either one or two places. Mogadishu, Somalia, or Yugoslavia. How many people saw Black Hawk Down? This regime is like the Crypt Keeper. Yeah, but the Crypt Keeper was already decayed, and we knew he was dead. He wasn't the Walking Dead. That's what's scaring the shit out of me right now. Okay, when I saw literally the flesh falling out of the bruise, I'm like, okay, he's literally he hasn't decayed like the Crypt Keeper. He's in progress of decaying. Eek! Disgusting. And the size of his hand, the edema is incredible. It's not just his ankles, it's his hands. Again, I'm not a medical doctor. I have no fucking clue what's going on. All I know is you're old, you're aged, you have aged symptoms, and you have real serious medical problems. And if you were my relative, I'd immediately take you to a physician. I wouldn't be taking you to Davos. I'd definitely be taking away your car keys and any firearms you had access to. That's for sure. Because personally, I think if the police don't go out there and the sheriff doesn't go out there and they don't confront with command presence the ICE debacle, then you're going to have a mass retaliatory incident. Remember, we're a country that had Kent State. We shot unarmed college students because someone threw a firecracker. That's what happened. Nobody shot a gun. It was a firecracker. 4 dead in Ohio. I mean, ICE does something even more stupid. Remember, they're armed with carbines. I bet you some of them are select fire, possibly automatics. I used to train other people on the undercover team about close quarter battle with automatic M16 A2s. The A2s have safe 1, 3, and then full auto, teaching them how to do the full auto part because that's a little different handling. Untrained people with that type of weaponry. Because one possibility too is ICE is going to get into a friendly fire incident. One agent's going to shoot another agent, and they're going to take that as incoming fire from outside, and they're going to retaliate against the crowd. And now we have Kent State times 20. Then you got a Mogadishu problem. It's zombie land. Because there's no attempt to de-escalate this whatsoever. The appellate courts are complicit. The Supreme Court is complicit. The district courts are trying to hold their ground. They really are. They've done so much, I'm actually surprised. But yeah, there's a lot working against us, against the country, against our society, against who we should be. And I know America is imperfect. But Jesus, this is not the road out from imperfect. This is the road to hell. You send untrained Goombas into the streets to enforce a civil problem. Like one of the people I just randomly see if you pick up Angry Male Vet because I'm really watching him. I wanted to talk to him tonight. Talk to somebody. uh, because he said the other day, I mean, like, we have to understand why we're going through this. In his videos in my notes. The president is a pedo. He's a sex offender at multiple levels. He was involved in a child sex trafficking ring. But do we hold him responsible? No. We've held 2 people responsible out of potential dozens, if not hundreds. The distraction is this bullshit with ICE. ICE is a distraction to a pedophile racket. As I said before, Delta's now apparently the robbery team in a Netflix fucking casino robbery action drama, so they can run slush funds out of Qatar. Because, oh, yeah, we've always had a treasury outlet in Qatar. That's always where the money has been managed from, right? Qatar. No, why is the money there? Because it's a fucking slush fund. Fucking Sloan in Watergate only had $2 million in the safe at CREEP, Committee to Re-elect the President. Now we're talking about hundreds of millions, a billion. What is 50 million gallons, 50 million barrels of oil worth on the discount market? I'd have to ask Matt Rudolph, Mr. Global. I don't know. But it ain't $2 million. I can tell you that. $2 million. When that hit the news that they had a safe with $2 million and it was a slush fund, that's when even Republicans were like, oh, what? What the hell is going on? I'm giving you money as a political party, and you've created an illegal slush fund with it to fund burglaries, wiretapping, mail tampering. Yeah, all those things happened. That's nothing compared to what's going on right now. Why is it going on? Because the power base in America is afraid to address the groomers. Remember the groomers? Remember Marjorie Taylor Greene and the groomers? Lowen Bolbert and the groomers? Groomer, 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 groomer. Call it pizza. Groomer, 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 groomer. 60 million times groomer. Bovino had the balls to hold a press conference and stand at the lectern and say, do you understand that we're going after child rapists? Do you know what child rape entails? If you have any information, JD Vets, if you have any information where the child rapist lives, you should give it to ICE. 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C., or Mar-a-Lago, Florida. He's either one of those two places. Then start arresting his friends and his campaign donors because they're in the goddamn files too. Oh, then go back and get Matt Gaetz because the ethics committee came out and said what? He gave drugs to a girl not in a good situation. A girl, not a woman. A girl. Say it again. These small dick motherfuckers, there's a reason why they're assholes. They can't have a real relationship with a real woman. These are weak ass men. Pukes. Hey, when you're Irish and you marry a German woman, you learn some strength. It's happening. That's bad enough. The reason it's happening makes me want to crawl up the wall. And what I don't understand, and what I was having a conversation with my close friend, my hockey buddy I was talking about earlier, um, we both asked, why aren't people more pissed? This is exactly what you complained about for 10 years. We found the groomers. Pam Bondi's hiding the list. They want $600 billion added to the Defense Department budget while suddenly saying China is no longer a threat. Poof, poof. China who? No more rabbit. Corporate media lies and withholding the truth. Why we are not more pissed. Yes, that is very true. At several levels, that's true. Because when you do the actual focus groups, um, I've been listening to several people about the focus group work, including Sarah Longfeld, Raw News, a couple other channels. If they are mono ingesters of information, they only get their information from Fox News. They only get their information from X, Twitter. Their opinions are skewed outside of the normal range. If that you can get a mono ingester simply to take in one other feed that isn't an echo chamber of the first feed. I don't say you have to take them from OAN to NPR. You just have to get them to like Reuters, somewhere in the middle. Hell, get them to the Sacramento Bee or the Christian Science Monitor. They're kind of lean that way, but they ain't crazy. They're still journalists. I still read the Christian Science Monitor. The problem is, yeah, they start to monolith. Like I make a point to round robin and not get my sources. I have my favorites, sure. Cable TV, I don't watch anything anymore. Okay, watching MSNBC or MS Now, whatever the hell they call it now, CNN, OAN, Fox Noise, they're different disinformation systems. About the only thing they cover for real that's honest is the weather. Not the aftermath of the weather and the failure of government to set up to help us survive severe weather. No, they won't cover that part, but they'll cover the weather probably. They will tell you how much snow falls in Houston and Austin this week. But I make a point like, okay, like we were at dinner just before the holiday, just before the New Year's, and my wife and I are going, okay, who should we subscribe to this year and make sure we have, regular reading versus who we're going to round robin and use the free accounts, that sort of thing. So I make sure, I spread it out. You know, you can't trust some outlets because they've completely, screwed the pooch, like CBS News. I'm sorry, CBS News is what used to be. I mean, that used to be the pinnacle of the evening news. CBS is why we had good old evening news. Now they're hijacked by a alt right, alt sex weirdo fucking idiot Barry Weiss. That's so sad. So I try to break it up. It's some of my technical rags. Wired, Gizmo, RAS Technica. It's the political sheets. Hill, Politico. It's the mainstreams, AP, Reuters, NPR, um, Texas Tribune. Washington Post, can't trust them anymore. I used to subscribe to them as a long-term reader and subscriber to Washington Post. Do not even read them anymore. Um, New York Times, used to read them frequently. Was subscribed to them for years. Canceled my subscription. Um, so it's now going to like bouncing around the country to find, and not just our country, like reading the Irish Times, reading French 24, uh, the German news in English. Okay. You got to go around, then look at the independent media. That's why I'm on Substack, because a lot of the people who got tossed out or walked out of things like the Washington Post and broadcast news and that stuff, they're here now. So I get to get the same reporting without, the corporate filter, especially not with the billionaire ownership filter, because they're suppressing articles at both the Washington Post and the New York Times. That cat's already been let out of the bag. Okay. and they're fluffing up propaganda. One article I read earlier this morning was Jeff Bezos went nuts on his staff because the Melania fluff piece they're calling a documentary um, isn't selling, isn't watching. People don't give a shit, and of course now he's blaming his management for the failure and want them to get all hands on deck to make it a popular movie. So now they're just ramming fucking bullshit down our throats and calling it documentaries on the news. Yeah, you got to find the proper sources. And unfortunately, a lot of the traditionals have jumped the shark. They're done. They've lost their reputation. I don't see the Washington Post, which for years was one of the best papers in the country. I don't see them regaining their reputation in my lifetime. That's that. CBS News is done. I think all of broadcast TV is done. You ask me, it won't be a thing in 10 years, but it's going to go out in an awful way. So yeah, when we talk about let's get our friends out to vote, Bristol, yeah, we've got to deal with the corporate media consumption on both sides. Yeah, far worse on one side, with like Fox Noise and OAN and idiot podcasts like Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, Total Maroons. I don't know why I'm eating chips when talking to you. Okay, the munchies. Um, I think when we try to look at new we try to look at new voters and getting somebody who can you know not join the cult, not groupthink either, because that's the biggest problem with Democrats and Republicans. It's groupthink. I mean, the fact that Kona and Massey can work together on the Epstein files and even go to court together to try to do another avenue. Um, Shit, Mosing parting the sea isn't anything compared to that right now. That's a miracle. But we got to get the voter we want to recruit is the voter that doesn't usually vote, even though they're registered, or they've never registered to vote, and they need to get in with the game, stand up and do the right thing. But if they're watching Fringe A or Fringe B, that doesn't help any of us. Like, I know NPR is liberal, capital L liberal. Okay, read them all the time. Why? Because they're usually accurate. And just like any other papers, most people want to claim that the opinion articles is the status of the journalism of the paper. That's simply not true. And in journalism, it's not about whether you make a mistake, it's whether you correct it. Okay, I have to at least give, even though I don't watch MSNBC anymore, I don't watch, I definitely don't watch Rachel Maddow anymore. Um, but one thing I appreciated about her when I had her on the old DirecTV, DVR, um, if she screwed up a story, she put that at the head of the B block the next day. And a couple of times she even apologized because it was kind of a bad misreporting, or just she slipped and said something with the intent that didn't come across the way the actual story should have reflected. Kudos, good, thank you. Okay, like I read the Sacramento Bee, where the Sacramento Bee, very conservative paper, goes, "Oops, we got that wrong. Our bad. Here's the correction." But the problem is the propaganda outlets, the fringe outlets, they never correct themselves. A lot of the podcasters, whether they're Anna Kay from Young Turks, who helped bring Trump to power, or Rojo Rogan, who helped bring Trump to power, okay, they what they do is they do feigned corrections, feigned apologies. Bill Maher is another one. Going to the White House with Kid Rock. Okay, you're just normalizing a guy, and the only reason you did that because he was suing you for what, $15 million or $5 million, something like that. Trump was suing Bill Maher over a joke, which Bill Maher was 100% covered under Falwell versus Hustler magazine. Supreme Court already decided this. True satire, true bombastic, you know, over the top satire can never be taken seriously. And ergo, there is no tort. Okay. What did Bill Maher do? Blue Kid Rock, bent a knee in fealty to dear leader porn star Humper. Okay. So we got to be careful where they get their information. And if you want to encourage them to know their candidate and get to know the issues, you don't want a bad source of information to fill their head. You don't want to create the next ill-informed voter. Like anybody who has an issue or a lack of understanding about the very, very over politicized, overhyped abortion issue, okay, they should watch an actual expert. Okay, there's a bunch of female OBGYN doctors who have YouTubes and Substacks. You should be watching because they will tell you what that medicine is really about. And it's medicine. It's not some evil oogie boogie thing. Why is an evil oogie boogie thing? It's an distraction. A distraction to what? Tax breaks for billionaires. And those billionaires who took a tax break, many of them were involved in a pedophile ring or being bribed by defense contractors or running a bank fraud. Oogie boogie, oogie boogie, oogie boogie. And I'm worried. I'm seriously worried. And I wrote an essay about this too. They're going to turn Dobbs, that threw out Roe v. Wade. They're going to turn Dobbs into this ice ship. Federal agents like ICE are going to start showing up at clinics and hospitals and doctors' offices. Mark my word. Already warned you about that a year and a half or more ago. You should really start finding the experts. You want to know about geostrategy? Peter Zeihan. Zeihan. Global strategist, teaches at the Navy postgraduate school in Monterey, California, or lectures there. Around the world, he does the same thing for other military and businesses and stuff like that. Geopolitics, geostrategy, he's a great resource. Mama Dr. Jones on medicine, especially women's healthcare. Dr. Jen here on Jen Gutner, the Canadian gal here on Substack and YouTube. She's super cool. You want to know how Bitcoin and these other internet frauds work? CoffeeZilla on YouTube. Michael Cryptodamus here on Substack. In fact, the snowboarder they just arrested for being a drug kingpin, Tether, even involves Howard Lutnick, one of Trump's advisors. Yeah, the money is altered. And it involves the kingpin they just celebrated arresting. There's stinky hands everywhere in that case. And it was all done through Bitcoin or Tether and same digital fucking beanie baby fucking crap they sell as something valuable when it has no intrinsic value whatsoever. Neil deGrasse Tyson for science issues. He's a great communicator. Baby Thor on YouTube. Kyle, the science communicator. He's got a couple of great videos like on nuclear energy. You want to listen to a real nuclear power plant PhD engineer, Dave Rusick, Urbana-Champaign, and Illinois energy professor on YouTube. Okay, we need more nuclear power, and we needed it 25 years ago. Okay. If you don't understand, or the person you're trying to educate doesn't understand, Illinois energy professor, nuclear, regional natural gas, as much renewables as we can possibly stack on top. Okay. Um, Legal AF on some of these cases that are going on. If you really want to know how full of shit Pam Bondi's DOJ is, Michael and his team over on Legal AF they're freaking killing it. Okay. Oh, and the gal Karen on the show, she's Luigi's the pew pew in the back of the healthcare CEO. Yeah, she's her attorney. She is his attorney. Okay, and that gal's smart. Yeah, the prosecutors got their hands full with her on the case. Definitely. Um, doesn't mean we need to turn him into a folk hero. He's not. Wrote an essay about that too. Um, trying to think of some other good sources. I like. I don't agree with everything he says, and I don't really agree with anybody I watch says. But I think his heart is in the right place, and his information is in a good space, and his sidekick Ed is pretty good. Professor G's podcast. That's kind of nerdy, geeky, deep marketing psychology shit, plus a bunch of haywire current events. Um, and I guess if they're watching a fringe personality, somebody who thinks centrism is some sort of demonic possession, um, that's the core problem. Get them away from that. That's a bad place to be. That's how cult members are and gang members are developed. This is how you get prison gangs. Not kidding. Because we need something different. If we don't achieve that step in the right direction in the midterms, um, you're already seeing the result. But imagine the result far, far worse. Okay, because if they do something stupid, it's Battle of Mogadishu, the home game, and it's going to happen in 10 cities all at once. It's going to be horrible. I worked the night around the King riots. Nights. When it calmed down, when the 82nd Airborne arrived in Los Angeles, we were all relieved. I wasn't the only one worried that the country was on the brink. We don't need to go back to that. That was a mistake. No reason to replay that or anything like that, or Kent State. And with the absurdity now, they're shooting people not over a foreign war, but a domestic war they want to execute. Because if you're throwing out the Fourth Amendment, the memo that says they don't need a search warrant to enter somebody's home because they wrote their own administrative warrant, how did Congress allow them to use the term warrant and judge when they're not in the Article 3 space? They're not part of the judiciary. How does somebody not a judge write a fucking warrant or make a judicial decision when they're not a fucking judge, not in the fucking judiciary? This is Congress's fuck up. Again, anything they want to do should be going through an Article 3 judge. Anything we did back in the day had to go through an Article 3 judge. You know how long we had to wait on some judges sometimes? I had to watch a guy for a long time, a lot longer than I wanted to. Those near 24-hour a day surveillance gigs, because he's really dangerous, those get tiring. Do that for 12, 13 days. Mm. Yeah, because we're waiting on the judge because he's asked, 91 questions. Guy's only blowing up people with claymores because he's pissed at them. I'm sure we can wait. That's why we're watching him. making sure we put them to bed every night. And yeah, Democrats are too soft. Somebody said that earlier. Yeah. Or they're too corrupt, just like the Republicans. It's a laziness, it's a corruption issue. It's the decay of Congress that's been going on since we abandoned capitalism under Reagan and we replaced it with corporate socialism, corporate lobbyist, corporate personhood. And the thing, I'll repeat, I get why the right and the far right are pissed. They're just pissed at all the wrong people. You're pissed at Juan and Jorge. They're picking artichokes in Watsonville. Really? You didn't bail them out for $12 trillion in the bank crisis. You bailed out white guys in expensive suits with vacation homes in the Hamptons and condos in Manhattan. That's the people who took your money. That's the guy that took your pension. A billionaire with a cabinet full of billionaires. They're the ones that took away the poor people's health care. They're the ones who want to take away Social Security because they're billionaires and they're mad at you because they're not wealthier. What you have, like, probably about today, like in my dad's age, if you had $20 million in my father's generation, you are untouchable in the economy. Just unfucking touchable. All you had to do is put your money into an index fund and put some of it in treasuries, long-term treasuries. You'd never run out of money. Even with a cocaine habit, you'd never run out of money. Even if you and your girlfriend and your mistress had a cocaine problem, you still wouldn't run out of money. Today, I would put it about 60 to $75 million. Okay. 65 million. I didn't say a billion. 65 billion. I said 65 million. Million with an M. The B with the billionaires, they're all pissed. They left the economy eons ago. The economy means nothing to them. It doesn't matter what a gallon of gas is or a gallon of milk or 18 eggs. It doesn't matter that ground beef is the highest cost, against the cost of living all time. That is meaningless to them. The first one of the Iron Man movies, I think it was the first one where Gwyneth Paltrow walks in and goes, starts talking about this painting, and he doesn't understand what the painting really means. No, it's not the season, it's his period as an artist. Oh, okay, I still need it. Okay. Yeah, these are the people who just, the average American through their lifetime, I think the average right now is $86,000 a year. So if you work 40 years, okay, you're going to make, $600,000 plus benefits. You're probably going to make total comp being, realized income. You're probably going to make $1 million over your lifetime. Over your lifetime. They spend $12.5 million on a painting on a drop of a hat, like you and I going in to get a small, cappuccino at Starbucks. But they're the aggrieved. They're mad at us. We've taken from them. Everybody has taken from them. We've taken it from them. Immigrants have taken from them. Europe has taken from them. The world has taken from them. The, the middle class of America made them rich. The global markets made them wealthy. And they're bitching about it. Their answer to this? after they get caught in their own crimes, start shooting white people on the streets. Because shooting blacks and Latinos doesn't create the level of fear they require now. So they're moving up to shooting white people, which I told you was going to happen. First person that put any real struggle up against an ICE agent is definitely getting shot. Today, this fucking incident, you were mad at the fucking camera. You didn't even know he had a gun until you started wrestling and his jacket came up when he was on the ground. Then someone ripped it out of the holster and ran away. You were never pissed. The gun is the post facto. A federal district judge is going to have fun with that. Trust me. Trust me. Again, we just unfucked up, at least at some level, the local shit. Like Oscar Grant getting shot at the train station. I freaked out when I saw that. I mean, you dumb motherfucker. We just got the needle to go to the correction zone and start straightening some of this shit out. And then here comes ICE doing shit that's it's as bad or as worse as the shit we didn't like from the bank protests and the Black Lives Matter protests. I've said this before. It's funny. Every time you want to have a anti-abortion protest, you have an absolute right to protest. If you're a 2A guy promoting your right-wing 2A rights, not ours, okay? Because we were there in your cult, or we don't have gun rights. You made that clear this weekend. Started last week when Pudgy was standing in his front yard with a carbine, and all of a sudden, oh my God, they're attacking the federal government. They must be traitors. I'm sorry. The NRA marketed having a long gun so you could fight the government since they started taking out the militia ads in the early 80s in the back page of Guns and Ammo. Handgun sales were flagging, so they switched to selling assault weapons to the militia types. Then they turned that into a whole American culture through some pretty nefarious marketing. But now somebody who isn't a right-wing lunatic is carrying the gun. They're now the enemy of the state. That quickly changed, huh? So the Second Amendment was never what you said it was. Be independent, vote independent, run for local office as an independent. Okay. Get some people in your circle, your family, your friends. Um, Everybody in my family votes. All my close friends vote. You anybody in your circle. My vote doesn't count. Bullshit. If your vote didn't count, why the hell do they want you not voting so badly? Get them on a good information track. Tell them to shift off the bad information tracks. Okay. Rule out absolutism. That doesn't work. Utopia. That's a childish fantasy. How do we fix the problems we're facing today? And what's your real solutions to do so? Learn a candidate, learn a couple of issues, get out there and understand who you're voting for. Because obviously the clowns that are in Congress now have duped most of the electorate. Because they're not following either conservative values they've expressed since the 80s or liberal values they've expressed since the 60s. Somebody's duping somebody here. That's what I'm saying. No, simple issues. How do you write off a candidate as a lunatic? When he says he's going to cancel Social Security and has no other answer to what's going to happen when people get started kicking out of nursing homes and apartments and start living outdoors when they're 70 and 80 years old. That's the level of morality in our society. We throw the elderly out into the streets. The fucking shanty towns aren't big enough already. And it's funny, they want to get the hard right wingers want to get rid of Medicaid, except their donors, private equity, own the nursing home space now. You're gonna put your own donor out of business. You're gonna close every nursing home in the country because they're 80% reliant on Medicare. What does the country do when it has no nursing care for elderly? Again, where the hell are our morals? Do you think cutting the government costs is killing pediatric research or childhood vaccines? They're fucking idiots. You shouldn't vote for them. Either fringe, write them off. Find a new person to support. And when you know they're full of shit, call them out. Get on their social media feeds. Go, no, wait a minute. You said X, now you're doing Y. You claim this is the cause. The cause is well documented here, here, and here, and there. And get candidates that are going to walk the walk. Because we have some weak need people that are holding leadership positions, and we have a lot of con artists and a lot of weak need people. Every single industrialized country on earth except the United States of America has figured out healthcare for all citizens. Why haven't we? Are you really going to fund the Pentagon $600 billion after telling us you're going to disconnect from the globe, abandon Ukraine, abandon Taiwan and South Korea, and collapse onto the United States and the Caribbean? You need $600 billion more to do an attack on us? You're out of your fucking mind. Next. All the people with bad math. No, out. Oh, we just want to give you another tax break. Who you're giving a tax break to? The ultra wealthy again for the 16th time since Reagan? All our debt was created by Congress spending the money and then refusing to collect the revenue to pay for the spending. And then they look at the middle class like they can get blood out of a turnip. Half of Gen X, half the people in my generation don't have a dollar saved for retirement. But they're talking about Elon Musk becoming a trillionaire. I'm a pure capitalist. Okay. I think that's insane. Mitt Romney op-ed. I talked about that before. Go read it. Go find it. Yeah. You need to tax people like me. We need to start getting control of our finances. And you can't tax the middle class because they're fucking broke. Okay. So when you get off to these wild fringes, disconnect. There's no point to that anymore. The problem isn't left or right anymore. It's not conservative or liberal. That's not the problem. The problem is liberal versus illiberal in the Lockean sense. You just had 7 Democrats vote for ICE, more funding for ICE. It's not about left or right or Democrat or Republican. It's liberal versus illiberal. It's moral versus immoral. They keep complaining about people who are all that on that welfare. Well, a lot of the people on the welfare and the food stamps and other shit work for Walmart and Amazon. It's not their problem. It's a wage problem and a taxation problem. So anybody who's going to pass the same bullshit, the same answer we've been hearing since fucking Reagan, next. Now, I think that rules out a lot of Democrats and Republicans, unless a new breed arises somehow in either party. That's why I'm thinking like we got to look at more at independents. Independents who are going to stand in Congress as an independent on the issue. Because the parties don't even follow their own platforms. So why should we even care about what your party says? Or what you say about being in that party? It doesn't mean anything. The Republican Party is now against gun ownership. They're against the model of insurance and reinsurance that runs capitalism. Why do I give a fuck about the Republican platform? Democrats, did you codify Roe v. Wade? No, you did not. Did you try? No, you did not. What you did is hand out and agreed to handouts for the wealthy while you cut back everything that supports the middle class. The middle class that made the people who give you campaign donations very, very, very wealthy through our spending. Yeah, Henry Ford may have been an asshole, but at least he was a smart capitalist and knew that he had to pay his people enough so they could buy his own product he's making. Like, really, we have to start working. The people around us, we can't let them just go off into these ridiculous hyperspaces on the edges. And in the end, we don't have any solution to any real problem. Or, like the disaster right now with ICE, why we're facing so much violence and so much chaos? We have been letting shit slide for 40 fucking years, especially with these idiots in Congress. It's time to hold somebody accountable. And us, our biggest vote is two things: the dollar in our pocket and the vote for the House. Changing the Senate would be nice too. But that's what we got. I do okay. I ain't never going to be in the circle of friends of these billionaires around Trump. I know that. Not even close. Okay, because a lot of people don't know how much the economy has stratified since the 80s, and they don't realize how far away the billionaires are from the rest of us and how much they've just stopped caring, to the point they'll literally send armed troops into the street to go after everyday Americans because they took a picture, took a video, blew a whistle. This guy actually pulled the gun on one of the ICE agents and he got shot, I'd be like telling you a totally different story. I go, dude, that was dumb. It's like the dude at the marijuana store. He pulled a gun. It was on the body camera. It was the first good shoot in years here. I was like, whoa, they got one. That was right. Holy shit. Wow. It was totally a good shoot. Yeah. Gun comes up, clear as fucking day. Nickel coated 337. Boom, right in the stomach. Oh, you shot me. Yeah, no shit. You pulled a gun. And I'm like, yeah, that one was a good one. You missed about 10 others, but boy, that was good. Okay. But that's not what happened. The shit that Kristi Noem is saying, what this whole regime is saying, what the whole right wing sphere is saying, it's all a fucking lie. And that's what dictatorships do. They gaslight you beyond the point you thought gaslighting was possible. We're here. That's why we need to work to a better place. Survive whatever's going on here. Hopefully, it doesn't go all Mogadishu or Yugoslavia, but there's a risk for that. And seriously, if I'm watching these ice guys, I'm like, if they ever got any serious resistance, um, they would probably suffer from unit disintegration. Cut and run. But the retaliation later, once they got their shit together, that's where it would all go wrong. So this should not be happening. This has nothing to do with law enforcement. This is a massive cover up using egregious police force that's over militarized. If the rumors are true, heard this couple three ways today. Uh, it looks like they're ramping up the 82nd MPs. That should not be happening. Now, the only thing I'm hoping if they do deploy the MPs, we're going to get the Lieutenant General Russell Honoré effect. Remember when he showed up in New Orleans, took command of the whole situation and calmed everybody the fuck down, had the cops put down the rifles, everybody stopped fucking panicking. That's the best option, but I still don't like the idea. There's no reason to send in the military because the base of this is wrong. If there was a real criminal problem and I thought the military police could help, okay, I would review that for the situation it was. But that's not the situation we're in. This is covering up a bunch of rich guys now that would have political power who've done a list of criminal shit up to and including pedophilia. That's why they shouldn't be doing it. So, hey, thank you for joining today. It was a good crowd. Um, thank you for your comments. Stay strong. Remember to breathe, stretch, warm up. Until next time, please think about it.